when your sense of how you look came from a reflection in a lake, or your lover's eyes. Now we stare at ourselves hour upon hour, admiring what we see, or loathing it.
Alexandre Dumas was a French writer in the 1850s, best known for his historical novels of high adventure, such as The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo. Dumas later wrote Celebrated Crimes, The Borgias. In this novel, he details who they were, their crimes, and how history views them. Alexandre Dumas stated in Volume 1 of Celebrated Crimes that hundreds of pictures of Jesus Christ produced around Borgia's lifetime were based off Cesare Borgia, and claims in turn that Cesare has influenced the commonly held image of the Savior till this very day. The Borgias, though deep in corruption and crime, were patrons of the arts. They allowed the Renaissance artists to flourish financially, and the Borgias took great pleasure in the most exquisite works of art.
Keep going, keep going. Through our patronage within the school of Ferrara, art has blossomed. Within these walls could be the next Garibaldi or Coltellini.
Leonardo da Vinci invented war machines for Cesare.
Birds fly, Leonardo. Men walk.
A bird is but an instrument working to certain mathematical laws, and it should be within the capacity of man, with the aid of machinery, to produce such movements as may lift.
Bring me maps of Urbino, Cesena and Imola to Acido di Lorenzo, with plans for siege walls.
Next, Pope Alexander commissioned Leonardo to reinvent Jesus in the image of his son Cesare. Da Vinci painted the portrait of Jesus in the Last Supper and painted him in the likeness of Cesare Borgia. Leonardo da Vinci recommended that the Florence Guild painters use Borgia and his likeness in their work. His brown eyes and russet hair provided a model of beauty that drew inspiration for the majority of the Renaissance artists. The Renaissance artists considered Cesare handsome and an object of male beauty. Millions of portraits of the Messiah have since been produced in the likeness of Cesare.
The Son of God seems to find much peace in death. Perhaps because he no longer bears the burden of leading men out of darkness.
His countenance does not represent death, but the communion between the divine and humanity.
The Virgin. She is so youthful.
My mother died when I was 5. This is how I remember her. I honor her incorruptible purity, which cannot be marred by the wounds of time.
Maestro, come join my court at Cesena. You can paint scenes of battle on the walls of the war room.
I am not a painter. I'm a sculptor and await a commission from the Signory in Florence. A large, very large sculpture of David, just after he slays Goliath. Or perhaps before. I've not yet decided.
I will build you a studio big enough to sculpt the Colossus of Rhodes.
Eminence.
Cesare, I did not know you had an interest in art.
I have an interest in creatures and comforts of every kind.
Now, this piece is more in keeping with the sensibility I had in mind when I commissioned the Bacchus. Art is the handmaiden of theology.
Art is the sister of theology. And sometimes sisters clash.
In my next commission, Buonarroti, you will execute the sculpture exactly as I describe. I only want that for which I have paid.
Like all men of wealth, you make the mistake that money gives you the right to tell an artist how to create, rather than know your proper place.
Proper place.
On your knees, in awe.
As you went to your knees after losing the battle for Faenza?
Keep my peace, Cubans with the Jesus peace. With my peace, keep my peace, Cubans with the Jesus peace. With my peace, keep my peace, Cubans with the Jesus peace. With my peace, packing, asking who want it. You got it, nigga, flaunt it. Keep my peace, Cubans with the Jesus peace. With my peace.
Sacrifice our sons for the benefit of others.
The Burlington Magazine is the world's leading monthly publication devoted to fine and decorative arts. It publishes concise, well-written articles on original research of art historical discoveries. A research article written by Keith Roberts on Cesare Borgia bust. An exhibition of Italian sculptures in London. He points out that in the Civita Castellana fortress, this Christ was produced during the time of Cesare Borgia and portrays his face. It is not an altogether uncommon occurrence, since, for example, to have oneself portrayed in the guise of a Roman emperor. To have chosen Christ the Savior as one's model would, after all, require no more than a degree of barefaced cheek, which Cesare certainly did not lack.